Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Good, and joining me this week is a very special guest, my friend and YouTube collaborator, Jalen, a.k.a. Galactic Grizzly. Jalen, how you doing, man?
What's going on, Jimmy? It's a pleasure to finally be here. This is the number one show that was on my list. I said, if I get to be on one show, it's the Critical Reviews podcast with my man, Jimmy. So, finally made it here. I got on the Critical Reviews. It's all citrus. Gotta have the Critical Reviews drip. So, I'm representing the only team.
I appreciate that so much. I don't know what it is, man, because, I've met plenty of people on here, and I feel so lucky, because I feel like there's so many friends I just never would have had, and I feel like we're just buddies, and it just, clicked, really quickly, because you found me through theme park history, I think, right? If I'm not mistaken? Yeah, and I love Jack and all the stuff he does over there. That guy makes, crazy killer videos, and, crazy, little teases for his videos, too. Anyway, enough about him. But I loved having you. You've been such a good supporter of us, and I love your videos, too. You make some really cool stuff, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. But with all of my guests, what I like to do is I like to start off with kind of talking about you. Kind of give them a barometer, a litmus test for who you are as far as pop culture stuff goes. So, Jalen, really hard questions, softballs that I totally didn't pregame you with here. Favorite movies, or favorite video games of all time?
So, as far as my movies and game choices usually go, I am a Jurassic Park fan, Lord of the Rings fan, Star Wars fan. A lot of just the bigger nerdy stuff that a lot of people are fans of. I like horror movies too. It's anything that kind of throws me for a loop. It doesn't necessarily have to be the scariest movie of all time, but I just like movies that make me think. So whenever I shy away from the big franchises, like the ones I just mentioned, it's always cool to have stuff that just makes me think. And then as far as games go, fortunately I am a Fortnite fan. Okay, I've got to admit it. I'll say it now. It's stuck around. It is what it is. I do play a bit of Call of Duty too, not so much recently, but Call of Duty. Used to be a big fan of Halo. Now, yeah, besides that, I'm not too big on individual franchises. I just play whatever looks cool at the time being. So, new games pop up and I tend to just play whatever looks cool. But yeah.
Cool. So you have a team or group that you normally play with, right? As far as Fortnite and I know you played some Minecraft Dungeons and stuff too, and you're a big, more multiplayer gamer for the most part.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with that, man. Hey, man, don't feel bad about Fortnite. It's one of the biggest games on the planet for a reason. I just never could get a win, and I only played it a few times, and I'm getting out of here. But do you know how many wins you guys have, or you have personally?
Yeah, so we actually did look the other day, because we just restarted playing. We took a long hiatus. We should have stayed on that hiatus, but we came back. Yeah, but we were checking the other night, and we were god awful. I had played over 3,000 matches, 3,300 and something, and the amount of wins I have is 300 something. So it's some awful ratio of the amount of time that we put in for what we actually get out is embarrassingly bad.
Hey man, we still got it.
Yeah, it's I don't know. There's some nights where it's just running your head into a wall over and over again, and you're wondering why nothing's happening.
Yeah,
but for whatever reason, we still play it.
Dude, that's Battle Royale, and for me, back in college, I played a lot of League of Legends, so that was kind of a similar aspect, even though that was not a 50-50, but there was a very you could win or you could lose, but sometimes even when I won, I kind of hated my friends, and my friends hated me. So sometimes on the victories, they were worse than the losses, because you're oh my gosh, we had to fight so hard. But yes. At least with a Battle Royale like that, you kind of get in, talk with your buddies, you could be done with it pretty quickly. It's not you have to play a 45-minute grudge match, and you're oh my gosh, please. But yeah, man, I respect it, even though I have told people plenty of times, more so Joe, I'm just not playing Warzone with him anymore. I'm just not gonna do it. It just hurts my heart, It's just he's there he goes, and I'm yeah, man, cool. So, yeah, I'm glad that you brought up Jurassic Park and Lord of the Rings, because obviously those are my favorite things. I didn't mean to make it rhyme, but I do it all the time. But yeah, I'm happy to hear that we have obviously that kind of overlap, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, like, I gotta know, though, favorite Lord of the Rings character, just so we know.
Favorite character has to be Legolas. It is. It always has been, and that never will change.
Dude, I envy that role so much for Orlando Bloom because you get to be the coolest character, and you also have, like, the least amount of lines, and he's just kind of there. Like, he's got, like, emotion, and he's so cool, but, like, I just love that he's just kind of like Aragorn's right-hand man.
Yes.
He's cool.
Right.
Good pick.
I think you even mentioned it on an episode where you said in Fellowship of the Ring, he spoke to Frodo, like, one time.
It's the only time he ever talks to him. He just says, "You have my bow."
Oh, that's for the entire series.
Trilogy, yeah.
Oh, jeez. That's crazy.
Yep, he's one of the best. I'm glad you like him so much, though. What did you think of him in Hobbit? Did you still like him as much?
Surprisingly, yeah. I was happy that he was still there, because it was like that. Besides Gandalf, I think that was like the only familiar face.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, so it was cool to see him come back and play as cool of a role in the Hobbit movie. So I was happy to see him.
Yeah. He's just if he was in another movie, he'd basically be able to fly because he just keeps getting more and more powerful. You're just like, how is he doing all this stuff? You're like, if you had 10 of those guys, I think you'd be able to take out Mordor and Isengard simultaneously. Be like, all right, 5 of you go that way, 5 of you go that way.
Exactly.
We'll be good. Yeah, man. Well, cool. Well, thank you. I appreciate you letting us into a little bit of the things that you love, and I'm just happy they're the things that I love too. I need a really big Jurassic Park poster behind me or something. That's maybe what I need to get. Man, that first Jurassic Park, I have a screenplay, and I feel like the original screenplay up on it, because I'm trying to kind of learn more about acting and producing. So I have that up, as I'm going to try to like read and watch through it at the same time. It's going to give me a newfound appreciation, I think, for this crazy movie. Because there's a lot that happens in the beginning of that film. You're like, oh yeah, I guess Hammond's daughter was going through a divorce, and it's like really quick, and you're like, okay, like it's there.
Yeah,
like
true.
It's not a big deal. Yeah, cool. Well, this week for people, I wanted to do something a little special because we're having Jalen on here, and we did a collaboration recently where we talked about EPCOT Center and how EPCOT has changed drastically. That's kind of the word I like to use for EPCOT over the years, from initial conception into what it's trying to become today. So we want to talk about the parks a little bit, the Walt Disney parks and things like that. And, you know, I love having any reason to talk about the theme parks, and I think a good place to start, again, you know, it might sound a little redundant here, but I do kind of want to know, like, Jay, like, for people who are also Disney fans, what, you know, park and ride, do you have any favorites, any least favorites, things that you're like, hey, man, no thanks, I'd rather not do that again?
I do. Least favorites, I don't have. There's only one that came to mind, which is Stitch's Great Escape.
Oh, really?
Magic Kingdom. Half because of the ride itself, and half because of knowing that it was the Alien ride prior to that. So it's kind of like, took away that for this, and then it's just like, but yeah, besides that, I don't really have any rides that I like actively dislike. But as far as rides that I do like enjoy the most, it's gotta be Space Mountain. Has to be number 1.
Yeah.
2 would probably be Everest.
Oh, good pick.
Yeah, I've only rode it once, and I was highly impressed with it on that one ride I did have. And then 3 would be Thunder Mountain.
Yeah, dude, a mountain man, just like me. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, I really like Everest. I just don't like the backwards section. Spoiler alert. That's the only thing I don't like. I think a lot of people like that. It just throws my stomach. I think it's because it's backwards and it's up. Because you go backwards and you kind of curve up at the same time. It really, like, my brain's like, I can't. What are you doing? What are you doing, man? Yeah, man, that ride is, like, theming and just, like, its own original thing to, like, the nth degree. And I just love it so much. It's such an experience of a ride. Like, it's so cool. It's so much more than just a roller coaster. So, good pick, man. Good pick.
Yeah.
Any love for anything at Hollywood Studios or EPCOT or anything?
Surprisingly, attraction-wise, not really at EPCOT, which I'm sure we'll get into briefly.
Yeah.
And then the Hollywood Studios, I haven't been there. I haven't been there since Galaxy's Edge opened. And then before that, that was just one of the parks that I just rarely ever went to. So not really.
Sure, that's okay. Well, I know that's like Hollywood Studios in the past, you know, for a long time had like the least amount of like attractions. It was super weird. Like it just didn't have a lot going for it. But I think with Galaxy's Edge and stuff and Toy Story Land, they're just like, yeah, we got more things. Come back, you know. Galaxy's Edge is great though. I think you'll like it when you eventually get to go over and experience all the new stuff over there. There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff. Even though I wish it was original trilogy. I know I've got Kylo Ren over here, and he's great. I really have this theory, though, Jay, where, like, one day, in, like, 20 years, they'll just revert all of that to original trilogy stuff, and they'll just put Darth Vader walking around everywhere instead with, like, original Stormtroopers. I really think you could do it. I think you'd have to make some changes to the rides, but besides that, I think it could happen.
Yeah, I could see them doing, like, a mix of them just, like,
sure.
a couple decades from now where they just throw everything together and it all just coexist within Batuu.
Oh, sure. That would make sense. Kind of like how Star Tours used to be, where it's like, you never know what you're going to get. You could go to any trilogy or any point in, you know, the saga, which I think is fine. And if you're not promoting, like, a specific film at that time, then you can kind of do that a little more easily. So, yeah. Also, I don't know with, like, the kind of the rumor and, like, the story going around that they're going to do, like, a trilogy set way in the past, like the High Republic. I don't really know if they're going to tie that into Batuu at all, so who knows?
We'll see.
But yeah, well, cool, man. And yeah, we were kind of talking about EPCOT, like, and as you and I have kind of researched EPCOT, and you much more so recently, man, what a weird park. I love it, and again, as I said in your video, the video we did, I hated it as a kid, man. I have, like, my family woke me up one day when I was a kid, and they're like, we're going to Disney. And I was, like, terrified because of the Maelstrom, which was what Frozen Ever After used to be. It was this terrifying Norway ride. And they had these trolls and these things, and there's this guy he had this blood eye. And I was like, no, not the blood eye. And as a child, I was terrified to go to Walt Disney World. That's how privileged I was, everybody. I was that lucky to go there that frequently. But that was, like, my early kind of, you know, exposure to the park. For you, Jay, like, when was the first time, or what is the first memory you have of going there?
So it's weird. I don't remember my childhood memory just right off the top. It's terrible. Like, anything, like, beyond maybe, like, late elementary school is, like, just a blur. Yeah, so I don't have many childhood memories, like, that far back to begin with. But when it comes to EPCOT, the biggest memory I have, which is how much I didn't care to visit it. Like, whenever my family would make a trip to Disney, they'd be like, yeah, like, no, we're going to go to Animal Kingdom, we're going to go to Magic Kingdom. And then if we have time after that, we'll hit, you know, EPCOT or Hollywood Studios. And so usually by the end of the day, pretty much me and my siblings were just like, Hollywood Studios, don't really care for that. And then EPCOT, like, what even is EPCOT? Because, I mean, the other three is kind of implied in the name. But EPCOT, I didn't even understand what it was. And then my parents always described it as, like, it's kind of like, you know, like science type stuff and like, technology. And I was like, why would I want to do that? This sounds boring, like a museum or something. So we just always would skip it, like, religiously. So, yeah, and then, like, the one time that I do remember going, we went through Future World. I don't even remember going through the World Showcase at all. I think we just, like, stopped in Future World at the front, kind of looked around, and we're like, this is lame. Like, let's just get out of here. Like, I could much rather go, because, like, they asked us, like, do you want to stay here, or do you just want to go back to, like, Magic Kingdom? Like, yeah, let's go to Magic Kingdom. This isn't anything to do here. So, as a kid, that's, like, my only memory is seeing Future World at that time. It was, like, early 2000s.
And it was just, like, wasn't for you. That's so funny, because I think a lot of people probably felt that way and then just kind of forced their kids to just go and do stuff. Like, I think that's what my family did. They're like, we're here. Like, you're just going to get into it. And we're just going to kind of focus on the attractions that exist, like Spaceship Earth and things like that. Where there's like, all right, you're just going to get on this. It's not, like, super thrilling or anything. And then Test Track came around. I think for me, I love the original incarnation of Test Track. But that was like, okay, now we have something here in EPCOT that's like, wow, they kind of reached out and grabbed me. I was like, this is really cool. And I wanted them to do more stuff like that. And it took them a long time before they started doing anything quite like that. Which is fine. It's fine. But like I said, in the video we talked about, like, I've grown to appreciate it more in recent years. I just want to know if that was like the same for you.
Yeah, the future world part, to me, I never, like, even to this day, it's kind of like damn, like, that could have been so much cooler than what it still is. Like, there's some, like, Spaceship Earth is always going to be nostalgic, but outside of that, it was always like, couldn't have kept this up to date a little.
Yeah.
Like, just a tiny bit. But World Showcase, I definitely had a much bigger appreciation, mainly because I didn't really see it until I was, in my early 20s. So I was like, oh, I didn't even know this was, like, here at the time. So I was blown away seeing that then. As a kid, had I seen it, I probably wouldn't have thought much of it. But
yeah,
now it's, like, really, really cool how they have that, go around the world within a day.
Yeah, exactly. I think it frustrates, like, I have a sibling who loves to travel a lot, and I just tell her, I'm like, yeah, I could travel around the world, like, one day and meet a bunch of people from all the different walks of life in this EPCOT, World Showcase. So it's like, if I want to go from, Morocco to Japan, I can do that. Like, I just be like, just kind of walk over there. And, man, I really love it. And I'm also, maybe some people, this doesn't come through super well, but I'm kind of a gregarious guy. I'm a little more outgoing and extroverted. I love talking to people. And World Showcase is really, like, it's so much more entertaining to me and more engaging because I think most of the people who work there, who are from those actual countries, they're indigenous to those places, like, you get to have such fun conversations with them, and they want to talk to you more often than not. Like, they were brought here because they wanted to learn about Americans and talk about their homeland. And I love doing that. I don't know if you've gotten the chance to do that at all, but it's just so much fun just to talk to someone from Germany or from Japan or, from Mexico. So
yeah, it is. I don't know if you know this, but do you know how, like, often they, I guess, rotate people? Because I always imagined, like, wouldn't they kind of get tired after, like, maybe 6 months of talking?
Yeah, I think it's like a 6 months or a year or so, roughly.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. You make a good point.
Because, yeah, I've same thing. Like, everybody that works here is really, like, eager to have a conversation with you. Even with, a line of 50 people behind you, they're still, like, down to have an actual conversation with you. So I've always wondered, like, there's no way that you can possibly stay this talkative for years. So I'm just wondering, like, do you go on to work in a different area, or, like, how does that work as far as new people?
Yeah, I think they rotate it relatively frequently, and I think what happens is, like, you kind of stay there for that 6 months, a year, maybe 18 months, and then a lot of people, what they do is they use this as kind of a springboard to kind of check out the rest of the country. So that's kind of what I've heard, depending on where you're from. I don't know if the European countries take advantage of it as much as someone from Japan might. That's kind of what we heard from, like, that group. They kind of be like, we came here, it's kind of far, so, like, if we're here, we might as well kind of, go explore around and stuff, which is really cool. Yeah, man, but like I said, it's just so good, and I think, like, you kind of appreciate having a more kind of authentic meal, more, like, to my knowledge, more authentic in some respects, but also delivered by someone from that place, and, like, you're talking to them, and, like, man, it could just be a really good time. But again, way more adult oriented, because for, like, kids, you're gonna be, like, not bored out of your mind, because I think they've made some steps and they're taking steps to, like, make it better. But for so long, it was like, all right, Future World is, like, edutainment, and if you don't like that, then we've got World Showcase. And for kids like myself, I was like, all I could think was the Maelstrom, and that was, like, the most terrifying thing in the world. So, like, that was for me, like, Norway scared me. But as far as pavilions go, as you can imagine, you probably know which one is my favorite. If you're just listening to this, I'm wearing a Naruto shirt, so Japan. But for you, Jay, is there any, like, favorite, pavilion that you like to go back to?
Yeah, I'd say my favorite two, Japan, without a doubt, is really, really, really cool. And then the other one has to be Germany. Yeah, I am a big beer drinker, so, Hefeweizen's any, like, really, like, just, like, a hearty, like, big body beer, like, that's what just Germany is all about. So, like, pretty much every time I've gone through there, I had to stop in Germany to get a drink. So, Japan and Germany are always my two favorites.
Dude, Jay, I don't know if you've actually heard, like, where I talked about this in the past, but Germany holds a special place in my heart, and longtime viewers will probably know this story, but just a brief version. my family like befriended somebody from there, and it's someone that is like become part of our family over the years for so long. And his name was Sven. What he did is he gave, when my sister and I were really young, it was a long time ago, he like gave us this picture of Snow White. He's like, color this in and bring it back to me. And this is how the story goes, at least in my mind. So we colored it in and gave it back to him, and he's like, you're the first family to ever do this, because most kids just, take it away. So we got talking with him, and then every time we go down there for, the next year or two or whatever it was, we would see him and we'd hang out, and then he just lived there for a while afterwards, so we just hang out with him all the time. He since moved back, over to Europe, but, it was something that we never would have met him, besides in a place like this. So the German pavilion, man, dancing the chicken dance with Sven back in the beer garden is, one of my favorite memories, man. So yeah, it's pretty great, man. It's a pretty good time, dude. I like that
awesome
place.
Story.
Yeah, well, thank you. And that kind of stuff is what makes World Showcase so cool. It makes it so compelling because there's nothing, I don't know if in any theme park that's quite like it. It doesn't really feel like a theme park anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Which is probably why kids are what is this? They just don't get it. But as an adult, you get the appreciation for the different cultures coming together. And I know that it's Disney-fied, but I feel like they do their best to make it as authentic as possible. So even though it's probably not the same as going to those countries, it does give you a pretty good taste of what it would actually be like in the people that are in there too.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad that Animal Kingdom came along and learned from that, because then they did Africa and Asia, and that kind of helped them learn from what they did over there, because their representation of that in World Showcase is this little, there's a few huts and stuff for Africa, and it's not anything, but then you go to Africa in Animal Kingdom and it's so cool. It's one of the best lands that's it's so themed, it's crazy. I love that, because if they didn't have Animal Kingdom, I'd be like, guys, we have room for some more pavilions here. Let's do more than just this, which is nothing.
Right.
But I know they've always had plans for some other pavilions. Are there any ones you would love to see show up one day?
That is a good question.
Thank you. I'll take it.
I'm trying to think of one that isn't, because there's a few that I'm oh, it'd be cool if they did that. I'm oh, you already had that.
Yeah. Okay.
Or one that's not too similar. Do you have one?
I have a couple. So there's been a few that were in the works and then didn't work out for one reason or another. I think it'd be really cool, and I know why they didn't do this, but Russia was
literally
one.
just thinking Moscow would be pretty cool.
Dude, it'd be sick, right? It'd be so cool. They had plans for it, and I think they had Russia. I think Russia was also going to have a river ride, because Germany was going to have a river, a boat ride, because every one of these pavilions, it needs a dark ride, Jay. I really feel that each one of them does. But I wanted them, Russia, I think would be so cool, because there's so many of us here in the States that I think are intrigued by it. But it's one of those things, because, we're not always on great terms. We don't know how to experience it. But I would love to just, talk to somebody from Russia and be like, hi, I'm Jimmy, and I love this place. I love Walt Disney World, and I want to talk to you. That's kind of it. But yeah, Russia. I know for a while they were talking about maybe doing Switzerland, so they could bring the Matterhorn over, which I thought would have been super cool. They should still do it. I think Spain has been another one that's been in the talks for a long time. Brazil was another one. I think that would be really cool, because they don't really have any South America representation. Do they?
True, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that one would be super cool. So there's just a couple. So but Russia maybe for you.
Yeah, Russia would be pretty cool. I'm just imagining, I don't know what the buildings are called, but it's when I think of Moscow, I think of those really, I don't know what they're called, but they have just that kind of temple look at the top of them.
Yeah, man.
And it's New Year's Eve, and you see the fireworks shots from around the world, and you always see Moscow with these iconic buildings. That's exactly what I'm picturing.
Yeah, man.
World Showcase, so.
Exactly. Red Square, baby.
Yes.
It'd be so cool. I totally agree with you. Yeah, I feel there's a few countries there that I wouldn't have ever chosen, but they're actually really cool. Morocco, I wouldn't have thought of, but if you know the backstory of how Morocco was built, and the king or the prince sent people over here to build it themselves, so there's super duper detailed like tile work and all this stuff, and it's like, and then the consideration of like making the Tower of Terror like the same color as Morocco, so when you see it behind there, like they kind of blend into each other. I'm like that's crazy. Like, I love it. It's so cool. But yeah, I just think there's room for plenty more pavilions. We just don't see them. But if you look from the sky, you can kind of see that. So maybe Russia one day. Is there any others that you think of?
Not really. I mean, I think I'm trying to think. Are there any besides Morocco? Anything else sort of Middle Eastern?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah,
like maybe something like Israel or something like that. Or, I don't know, do they have any, like, Indian-type countries?
Not really. You know, I think that because of the fact that, like, Animal Kingdom exists now, that maybe they wouldn't do it, because they'd be like, we kind of have that represented over there, you know?
Right.
It's not exactly the same. I think if you built Epcot today, it would look like a crazy Animal Kingdom on steroids. Like, each pavilion would be like, oh my gosh. Not that the pavilions aren't like that already, but they would be like, each one would have like a full street to walk through and stuff. You'd be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's another, you know, they could still do it to some degree, like something like that. That'd be cool. Or like, maybe, well, I guess we had the Polynesian, but like the South Pacific or something like that would be really dope. Like, that's cool culture too. So, yeah, I think Epcot has the potential to expand in some crazy ways. But as we discussed in our video, like, Epcot's getting some major transformations because they're just adding a bunch of intellectual property stuff all over, which totally makes sense to me. I might shock most people. I'm not the biggest Mary Poppins fan, but I know there's a ton of Mary Poppins fans out there who are like, Cherry Tree Lane, and they're like, we are delaying Cherry Tree Lane indefinitely or whatever. And it's like, Cherry. It's like, I feel bad. I feel really bad. But out of the new stuff that they've announced, you know, there's that. There's obviously Ratatouille has been in the works for a long time. Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. You know, the Moana walk through water experience. Any of that stuff jump out at you where you're like, wow, that's really cool, or are you just not interested in it?
Yeah, the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff for sure I'm looking forward to the most. And then like we were talking about the other day, I'm hoping the Moana walkthrough is pretty legit. I hope it's not just like like you were saying, like you pass through it real quick and you're like, wait, where is he? Like, no, you just walk through it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they go all out with that. Maybe like a really cool. I don't know what they have to do to make that happen. Like you got to build a biodome, like whatever.
Exactly.
You gotta do, like make it just legit. That's all I ask for. But those two for sure.
Do you think there's like a part of them that like saw this opportunity and they're like, all right, we're retheming Polynesian to Moana just so that way people can't get angry because if this walkthrough isn't that good, to be like, but you can go stay at the Moana hotel. You're like, yeah,
without a doubt, there
yeah.
has to be some of what they're like. All right, this is kind of plan B. Just in case.
Just in case. Well, like, and I love Moana so much, and I would love to see a dark ride for Moana built from the ground up, because I feel like we're getting a lot of that now, where it's just like, let's just take a thing and just kind of tweak it and make it new, which is fine. You know, they did that with, like, Maelstrom and stuff, you know, rest in peace. Terrifying ride, but it was all over the place. It was like fantasy, and then it was like the oil industry. It's just like, but I do want to see, you know, like, that kind of stuff that they're building be something that's really, like, withstands the test of time a little bit more, because I feel like that's been one of the problems with some of the things they've built, where it kind of feels like they build it, and then in a couple years they're like, well, that's outdated, and, you know, what are you going to do? But I'm surprised we haven't gotten, like, a Coco retheme of the Grand Fiesta Tour over in the Mexico Pavilion. I think that's imminent. You know what I mean?
Right. It's like, that would just make perfect sense. Like that's like, I mean, come on. What else would you think about putting there? Like, I hope they do that, but we'll see. I think that just comes down to a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I agree with the Cosmic Rewind stuff. The only thing that makes me nervous, Jay, about that is how the roller coaster turns so you can look at certain things when you're going by it. And I'm just trying to imagine, like, they were talking about, like, a reverse launch and all this stuff. I was like, all right, you can only do so much of this stuff before, like, families are like, we can't ride it because everybody gets sick. I was like, so I'm really, really curious, especially someone who enjoyed Universe of Energy, but realized even as a child that it wasn't, like, something that probably was for everyone, because it was like a 45-minute attraction with Ellen DeGeneres talking about, like, energy and, like, fossil fuels and stuff. So I get why they decided to finally scrap that, but I think that ride is that'll be nuts. That'll be really cool.
Yeah.
But between that and Tron, man, we're getting two new crazy kind of techno-y coasters, which I can't wait for Tron. Like, I'm not even a big Tron guy, but from the Singapore stuff we've seen, or Shanghai or wherever it is, I'm like, yeah, man, that looks really cool to me.
Right. Same here. I don't really care for Tron like that, but ride sounds amazing. So
exactly.
I do care for it, not just.
As long as they don't touch Space Mountain, that's the only thing. When they put that in next to it, I'm like, great. Pull people away from Space Mountain. That's totally fine by me, as long as you're not trying to like replace it. Like, be like, oh, it's Tron now. I'd be like, all right, now we got Disney. Now we got a problem. I'd be like, all right, I'm coming down there. I'm gonna go sit out front and protest. I pay to get in, so it doesn't really matter to them. But yeah, I was trying to think of like some things like the Epcot kind of like, we talked about Spaceship Earth earlier. I made a joke about this. I was at a bonfire the other night, Jalen, and my jeans, like, they smell like the burning of Rome scene. You know that scene. It's like there's like a section in the ride where like Rome, Alexandria is burned down. And it has that like very distinct like smell. If people who've ridden it know what I'm talking about. But that ride, I know they were trying to retheme that one kind of to talk about like storytelling, and that's been delayed indefinitely now too. I have no idea really. Like, maybe they're just trying to update it, and that was the kind of the theme. Maybe, I don't know. What do you think?
It's a little sidebar here. You had mentioned that specific smell of the city burning, right? So I have a friend. I just found this out recently, but he works for a company that makes theme park scented candles.
Is it the Magic Candle Company?
I believe, yeah. That's
oh
what
my gosh, I know those guys. I know of it.
So he works there, and he gave us one of the Pandora candles. But
nice.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing, but like people seek out like the smell of Magic Kingdom popcorn and like the smell of the city burning, or the Pirates of the Caribbean smell. Like, crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But
the smell of bromine, by the way, my friend Rob did a video on it for the water stuff, because that's how they treat their waters, with bromine, not chlorine. Really fascinating video. He's a very smart man for making it, because I've always wondered how they keep that stuff clean. But anyway, continue.
Oh no, you can go ahead. I was just asking if you could just. What was the question?
Oh, I was going to ask. No, Spaceship Earth. What do you think they're doing with it? Like, what were like from your thoughts and the research you've seen?
Oh, to me, it just kind of seems like they're probably just going to make it a little more timeless. Like, like if you go back and show like the different civilizations, and then kind of leave it just a bit more open-ended instead of being like, we're going to be in flying cars and here's the robot dog. Like,
yeah.
If you leave it a bit more just like, renewable energy and stuff like that, like space travel, like stuff that's just kind of like you would imagine would happen. But I think they're going to lean heavily on like showing like cavemen and like, pioneers and Egyptians, stuff like that. Like just showing really like historic moments throughout human history.
Sure. Yeah, I think they're going to keep a lot of the stuff that's already there, like we are just talking about. But like at the end, maybe that's where they're going to kind of change it up, because the end right now is like a lot of fiber optics and you just like watching like a video screen, which is fine. It used to be pretty crazy back in the day too, if I remember correctly. But the biggest part, Jay, is like, who's the new narrator? Because it's been Judi Dench for a long time. Like, I could see Morgan Freeman. Or I could hear Morgan Freeman. I could hear like an Ian McKellen or Patrick Stewart type. Maybe like an Anthony Hopkins, like something like that. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm thinking Morgan Freeman. I don't know if they'll go to that like obvious. Yeah. But Patrick Stewart, I could also. That sounds very Disney. Like, that sounds like the person you would end up taking in the end, or somebody like maybe like one of the Avengers. They end up going out and getting like a familiar voice that stays within the IPs. Like
Robert Downey Jr. is the host of Spaceship Earth. I feel like I like Morgan Freeman so much, but he's so soothing that he would probably he would lull a lot of people into like sleep, because he'd be like in this cold, dark, moving ride, and then it'd just be like Morgan Freeman's like, and this is this is how the alphabet began, and you're just like, yep. But yeah, no, dude, Patrick Stewart that'd be a good one. I was trying to think of like a crazy one that they would do, but yeah, whoever it's gonna be, I'm sure it'll be great. But I'm interested to see how I wish they would update some of the ride systems, because between like that, like Peter Pan, like you hear the squeaks Like you hear you hear the mechanics of the thing, and you're like, "Are we good? Are we good here?" Like I'm sure it's good.
That irks me. Like when you can hear, knowing that this needs some maintenance, like just give it some DLC, and it's like, really, you guys can't, shut the ride down for whatever, like a few days, a week, and just put new machines in here, like. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. I wish that would happen. Even if they had just shut some of the stuff down for a while, I wonder if that's like the thought is as they get more of these things added on, then they could shut down older rides because they'll have the new stuff. And they'll be like, well, Spaceship Earth is shut down, but Cosmic Rewind is open now, so go do that. Which it makes total sense. Like it makes perfect sense to me. But yeah, like I said, the older I get, though, EPCOT and living with the land, I don't know what happened to me, Jalen. I used to not be into living with the land at all, but as an adult, for some odd reason, getting on that boat and getting in there, and it feels like a classic EPCOT attraction. It's got like the little animatronics in the beginning, and then you go like into the greenhouses and all this stuff. I love it. I love it so much, but I can see why so many people think it's boring because it's like 15 minutes going through greenhouses, and I get where people would be like, "This is nothing." Like it's Jurassic Park. But instead of dinosaurs, it's fruit. Like, that's what it is. Like, that's really what it is. And, like, part of me wants to do, like, the behind-the-scenes tour and stuff. I'm like, oh, man, maybe I should go do this. But when's the last time you rode Live with Land, if you've ever ridden it?
So, no, I've not ever actually been on Living with the Land. I've surprisingly, I think I've only been on 2 EPCOT attractions, which is Spaceship Earth and Test Drive.
Really? Okay, never Soarin'.
No, actually, maybe. I think I have been on Soarin'.
Okay.
So I guess 3. But I never cared for Soarin'. I only went on it once.
Okay.
But yeah, never went on Living with the Land. I've seen plenty of like ride-throughs of it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I know as a kid I was like, this is boring. Like, I need to get off this. Like, why can we on this ride?
Yeah.
But as an adult, I can see why. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's just like the soothing nature of like, I want to get on a boat and just sit back and not have to do anything and listen to somebody spit off facts. Like, that sounds amazing right now. So I can see why it does seem like a pretty appealing ride now. Yeah.
It's a weird pavilion, too, because the land pavilion stuck, like, in the 1980s, like, when they built it, so they have, like, this food court that feels like 1980s mall, and I hope they never change it, because it's just been, like, this long. I don't really know what you do to, like, really shake it up and make the people who eat there, like, any more excited about the food that they're eating that probably just came off of Living with the Land. Yeah. I don't know. I'd say you just leave it. It's hilarious. But Soarin' over there, I loved it because for a while it was still Soarin' over California because that's like the original attraction. So I think it confused some people because people would go in here in Florida and they'd see Soarin' and you'd be like, why is it over California specifically? And they're like, well, we made the one video, and we just brought it over here to test it and people like it, so we'll make a different one now. So, yeah, man, I should bring you around to check that out. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I'd be like, all right, Jay, here we go. We're going to go check out some of the, like, Live with the Land. You'd be like, yeah, it's pretty boring. I'd be like, isn't it, though? It's pretty great, right? Yeah, no, I love watching. It's like my guilty pleasure ride through it. Like, I like to watch it, like, at night for some odd reason. I'm just, like, watching it and it's like, all right, 15 minutes of me just sitting, farming practices. Okay, here we go. I do want to eat at the Garden Grill, though, which is, like kind of, like, that slow-moving, kind of rotating restaurant attached to it, with, like, takes a lot of the stuff from the actual ride. I'm like, oh, sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Is there any, like, restaurants in EPCOT that you haven't been to or have been to that you're like, I gotta get back there?
I don't really remember the names of the restaurants in really any of the parks. Though I do remember eating at the restaurant in Japan. I just don't remember the name of it, but it was like a pretty nice, like, sit down restaurant in Japan. I went there on Mother's Day a few years ago. So I ate there. That was really, really good. Was it like a grill in front of you? No, it wasn't like a hibachi place. It was like a traditional. Was it sushi? Or no? Was it? It was more traditional. Did they have like rooms, like special rooms and stuff? I think they were there, but we just kind of sat in the normal area. Oh, I wonder if you went to Takumi Te. It's been open for a couple of years now. It was like really high end, like pretty quiet, not a lot of people in there. Yeah. Is that where you went, you think? Yeah, I think so.
That's where I had the best meal of my life. So,
gosh.
Yeah. No, keep going. No.
Yeah, like, that food was really, really good. But besides that, I don't really remember. Again, like, I'm just terrible when it comes to like names of restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
So, I believe I ate at the Mexico Pavilion as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I just don't remember the name of the place inside there.
Yeah. Oh, the San Angel Inn or something. It's like on the water, I think.
Yeah, it's like really dark in there.
Yeah. It's very similar to the Blue Bayou, which they have over in Disneyland for Pirates of the Caribbean. So,
yeah, it looks the same.
Yep.
From the inside. Yeah.
Yeah, but you had a good meal over at, maybe it was Takumi Te, maybe if it was a couple of years ago, it might be the one we're talking about.
It was like probably 3 years ago ish.
Okay. Well, maybe that was it, because I was gonna say, I just pulled this up here and I got this from our waitress there, and it's like a little heart. It's got like hair on it right now. Don't worry about that. And it's like a little origami heart, and it's from Ayumi, and it said thank you for coming today, and it's like written out in like Japanese kanji.
Oh.
That place, I paid a lot for my Wagyu beef, but seriously, and I've got it on film. It was incredibly good and totally worth it. It was so good that we went in there at like 8 o'clock for a meal. And originally I thought, we'll be done by 9 and we can go out and watch the fireworks show, which at that time was like EPCOT Forever. And I was like, okay, it's not Illuminations, which is my personal favorite. But I was like, all right, we'll just hang out in here and then we'll be done. But I loved it so much. We stayed there for probably like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, just like talking, and I got like a little tour of the place from our waitress, and I just loved it. I got to be full on like in love with Japan mode. Like I was so happy to be there, and I was questioned for why I knew Japanese, and I was like, I only know it because of anime, really. So, but they were super kind. Man, that food. Oh gosh, if I could eat. The problem is I can't eat there every night because it would be very expensive, and also I get sick of it probably. But every time I go to Disney from now on, I'm going to Takumi Te, even if it's by myself. I just want them to know me. I want them to be like, "Oh yes, sir, your table in the back," and I'd be like, "I got this. I must walk in the back." Yeah, dude. Are there any other places or countries where like you went by and you're like, "Man, I wish I could eat there," or there's some where you're like, "It's a little too adventurous for my palate"?
So. In my adult years, the only time like I've been to EPCOT twice, maybe 3 times, but once was for Food and Wine Festival.
Nice.
So that was like I spent pretty much the whole day in EPCOT. So that was really all I was doing, just going from booth to booth to booth. So I guess like because of that, like anytime I think of eating in EPCOT, I just think of wine festivals. I don't think of eating in the restaurants.
Yeah.
But yeah, so. Like, that was just eating everything and drinking everything, which, by the way, people don't do that in the middle of the day when it's like 85 degrees out. It's horrible come like 5 o'clock. But, yeah, the food and wine is really, really fun. Like, that's when I would prefer to go, because you could just get, like, just a little bit from everywhere instead of, like, getting an entire plate. But, yeah, I think, like, doing that, like going through like Morocco and seeing what they had there, and then like Germany stuff, seeing what they had there. Like those are two of like my favorite food wise stopping food. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, the food and wine stuff really just like if you wanted to try any of those restaurants before, you're like, oh great, now there's all these little booths out here that you're just like, oh my gosh, I have to try all these different things. I got to partake in a little bit of that over in California, and I had some amazing corn and shrimp combo thing. Oh my god, I got 2 of them. I got one and it was so good, I'm like, I'm skipping another booth, I'm just coming back to this one. I'm like, another please. But yeah, man, I think that stuff is there. It's really cool if you're a tourist and like you get to just experience that, but I think a lot of that is for the locals who are like, yeah, I could just come here, and some people who just like go and eat at EPCOT for just a dinner, you know, like they just live close enough to do that, which I completely envy. But, I love the food there. And again, as I get older, the more I appreciate that. Because as a kid, I'm like, I don't have time for food. I'm like, just give me whatever, and I gotta get back to the rides. But now I'm like, I like a bit of both. You know what I mean? I'm like, I want to be able to eat a nice steak, but then go ride Test Track. That's what I want to be able to do, you know? 'Cause that's my dream, all right? But for you now, you kind of said EPCOT was not like a place that you would, you know, really check out too much. if you went back there, do you think you would try to spend like more time there, or is it still kind of at the bottom of your tier list compared to all the other resorts or the theme parks?
Yeah, I think now I would like. It's kind of a toss up. Like, well, first, Animal Kingdom is my like absolute favorite park, and then
Nice.
the other three are kind of just like, like they're all seem really really cool. So, now if I were to go back, I would without a doubt spend a lot more time. Still in the future world side right now is mostly under construction anyway. But with that, like World Showcase, without a doubt, like I just want to eat pretty much everything in there. So, like I without a doubt have bigger appreciation for what it is now.
Yeah, you make more time for it, and I've heard a lot of people who like to drink around the world. Like you said, if you don't do it correctly, like you're gonna have problems. Like
like don't just go hard. Like as soon as you come in, you're like, I'm gonna drink here, I'm gonna drink there, because by like 3-4 countries in, man, you're gonna be like, I need to slow down. Let me eat more of whatever this is.
Yep.
Drink some water. That's a pretty good idea. If you like eat, drink at one country, next place, drink some water, eat, and then have a drink at maybe the next one. But don't drink on every country.
Exactly.
You will regret it.
Yeah.
And you'll be like me, and you can't even remember what you ate. It doesn't matter. You just get sick.
I haven't done that myself, but I think what I've heard other people do is they'll kind of pick a place for lunch and dinner, like kind of big sit-down places, and just make sure to be like, all right, at 11:30, or 12, 1 o'clock, that's like going to be lunch, and we're going to have a really big lunch. And then as you keep going throughout the day, and they're like, all right, we've got a dinner at like 7:30, 8, or whatever it's going to be, so that way you're like taking breaks and sitting down and not just being like, okay, this was a bad idea. So yeah, don't do that, because Epcot's gotten kind of a reputation for that. So don't contribute to that. You don't want to be that person, right? Buy some more popcorn. They've got that maple one over by Canada. I've heard is really good. I'd like to try it. Can you get a candle that smells like maple popcorn? Probably. Probably. I'm surprised Disney hasn't like bought that up yet. Like they're like, we'll just buy your candles and just. I don't know. You get that smell. Like the first times I went on the rides, like writing down notes vigorously on like Spaceship Earth, and they're like, smells like burning, and they're like, got it. Yeah, no, I do love Epcot. Last time I was there for my trip back in January, we only spent one day there, and we had park hoppers, and I wanted to like go back there. But I think it really depends on who you go with, because some people are just not into Epcot, and they kind of do it once, and they're like, yeah, no thanks, I'm good. But other people are like, I want to see more of this, so keep that in mind, right?
Without a doubt. It definitely depends heavily on who you go with and what they're into. Because, it's not a very big attraction-heavy place, so if they don't like to eat or, trying a bunch of different foods, it may not be the greatest idea to go with them to Epcot, but, it just heavily depends on who you go with.
Yeah, exactly. And to get into a little bit of news, by the time this comes out, it'll be kind of old news, but I don't care because it's my show. Moana has now been become the new theme for the Polynesian. It sounds like they're going to kind of redo the rooms, at least, maybe even the lobby. If anything, I just want them to bring back the original Polynesian lobby. They used to have this big mountain and water and stuff in there. It used to be really crazy. It had parrots and stuff. It was a whole thing. But anyway, Jay, I want to know what you think about this. Do you like the idea of the Moana retheme?
Yeah, Moana's a really, really good Disney movie, so it just makes sense for them to attach that on the Polynesian. They're not going to change the name, right? It's still going to be called the Polynesian.
Not that I know of yet, but who knows? Yeah, probably keep the name.
But yeah, I'm all for the retheme. I'm assuming they're not going to go all out. Like it's going to be Moana wallpaper and Moana lamp, and make it like a kid's resort. So usually they're pretty tasteful when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I'm highly interested to see how they what elements they include for the rooms, and especially the bungalows that are right on the water.
Yeah, apparently the bungalows aren't going to be touched during this.
Of course.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think they'll do a really good job. If anybody would do a really good job at that, it's usually to be tasteful with how they incorporate the IPs with a really nice, high-end resort like that.
Yeah. I hope they do it, actually thinking about it, I hope they do it a lot of how they did with Animal Kingdom Lodge, where there is Lion King, like, accents, but it's not like you go in the room and it's like a banner or a mural of, like, the VHS cover, you know, or whatever, and you're like, you go over and it's like Simba towels, like, Simba bed sheets, like, everything, Simba's on the TV, like, you can only watch Lion King. So, yeah, I would love that. I just wonder if this is going to be the beginning of them implementing more of their intellectual properties, not only in the parks, but the resorts themselves, and just kind of, like, changing some of the themes. Like, for example, you could take the Grand Floridian maybe wouldn't work like this, but, like, Mary Poppins it, you know, a little, even though she's from Britain, but, like, you know, or you take some of these ideas, like the Contemporary, like, you could grab you could make it a Pixar-themed hotel to some degree, but not, like, go overboard with it, where, like, Pop, you know, and Art of Animation really are like, here are the characters, and you can't, you know, avoid them. Like, the Little Mermaid rooms in Art of Animation are Little Mermaid rooms. It's not like, is that Ariel, like a mermaid-shaped silhouette thing? No, it's like, it's Ariel. Which is fine. My mom made a good point. She was like, I think they're just going to come out with a Moana sequel soon, or eventually, so this is like another way to help kind of promote that. And I was like, that makes sense too. My question is, do you think we'll get like a Moana, probably a Moana statue, but do you think they'll replace the little Maui they have in there with like a big rock wooden Maui that's like the new with like the long luscious hair? Do you think they would do that?
I don't think so. I sure don't hope so. I don't see them doing that, and I hope it stays that way. That would be, to me, that would be kind of cringy if they were like, let's slap this massive Dwayne Johnson looking thing right here.
Welcome. It's $600 a night. And they're like, yay! I wonder if Trader Sam's and stuff will get changed, like Tamatoa's like little lair or something. I'm calling it now. If they start changing stuff like that in Captain Cook's, like all the eateries, I wonder if they'll kind of try to, you know, spice them up a little bit as well, even though Trader Sam's doesn't really need it. If you don't want to drink around the world at Epcot, just go to Trader Sam's for a couple hours. You'll be fine. Or do the monorail pub crawl, which a lot of people love to do. The monorail crawl, where you just kind of go each little place. Yeah, that would be fun.
Sounds like a really, really fun thing to do. Just spend a whole day just doing that instead of even going to the parks. Just spend the day on the monorail. That's a good idea.
Dude, I want to do it. And the Polynesian, it sounds like their monorail line will be shut down during all of this because they postponed the full reopening of it until next summer, 2021. But it sounds like the bungalows and stuff will still be open and operating, which I'm guessing there's a lot of people who, you know, book those bungalows way in advance. And Disney's like, okay, we're not going to touch those. We spent thousands and thousands on these, tens of thousands of dollars, so we're just going to make sure those are still operating. But yeah, I'm interested to see that because I know I've heard some other people say that the rooms felt dated. I haven't stayed at the Polynesian for a long time, and you know, there's a reason for it because as much as I love it, it's one of my favorite resorts there. It is just so expensive.
Yeah, I bet.
It's like, and it's like when it comes down to it, especially as an adult, you're like, well, I could spend one night at Disney, or I could spend like 5 or 6, and you're like, okay. Maybe, and unlike the actual theme park tickets, which, like, if you get a 4-day and a 5-day, the difference between the 4 and 5-day might not be that much. The hotel rooms aren't that way. It's not like if you book 5 days, the 6 days free, or it's like $10 extra. Like, it's not that, unfortunately. I wish it were, but they would not make a lot of money that way.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm interested to see this retheme, and I love Moana. I think it is an underrated, potentially Disney classic one day. So, yeah, we'll see how that turns out. So it sounds like we're both on board, which means that they can go ahead with it now. So we'll call Disney, and they'll be excited about it, right?
We'll break ground tomorrow and be open by January.
Yeah, they need to fly me down. I'll meet you over there, Jay. They'll just fly me down. We'll just go down with the shovels. Be like, all right, everybody, let's go. Like a jackhammer in the lobby, just right on that cool, crazy, like volcanic floor. Anyway, there you go, everybody. That's our Epcot and Disney kind of roundup information dump because we just wanted to talk about that stuff. This is so much fun. And again, like I said, we collaborated on a video talking about Epcot, the past, the future, and what's happened to it, all in between. So you should definitely go check that out. It's up here, but it should also be linked down below for you guys as well. We're going to start to wind down, though, with a few segments. But this segment, well, it's what we like to call Time stuff we've been killing time with, like games, movies, TV shows, all that stuff. Everybody knows what I kill time with, Jay. They know because I'm pretty easygoing. What have you been killing time with?
So I have recently started watching Lovecraft Country.
Oh, how is that? I heard
on
it's okay.
HBO. I really, really like it. Like the time period of it, and kind of like the alternate history of it. Really, really cool. Like, it's just right up my alley. Like, especially the way it's shot. Because my voice completely gets out. The way it's shot. And, like, the costume design and just, like, all the sets that they have. It's just crazy, crazy, crazy. So, Lovecraft Country for sure. I think is worth giving a watch. What else? Oh, I watched Hereditary today, the movie Hereditary.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
That was crazy. I just finished watching it before we started recording this. But yeah, it's from the same person that made Midsummer, which I saw Midsummer first and then saw Hereditary. But I really did like it. I like stuff like that, like I was saying earlier, stuff that just like throws you for a loop. So yeah, Hereditary, just a very disturbing, creepy movie. Not really that like terrifying, like not gonna really make you jump, but it's definitely going to disturb you severely.
Dang.
To say the least.
Yeah. I heard the ending is pretty messed up.
Yeah, I saw Midsummer. But,
yeah, I know parts of it. I know kind of the main gist.
Okay, yeah, it is very like you can tell right off the bat. Even if somebody didn't tell you, you would know it's made by the same brain. Very like the end is just, like twisted. Just like why? But I don't like. Usually, if someone would just tell me the plot or the ending, I would be like, I wouldn't want to watch that. But I would still go and watch it because I don't know, just something weird to my mind, or it's just like that was really good. But if you were to tell me the ending, I would be like, that sounds really, really dumb.
Yeah. But
seeing it on screen, it just works out well. But
sure.
Yeah, Hereditary is worth a watch. Yeah, besides that, I'm trying to watch a bunch of horror movies that I like just missed out on this past year or so. Besides that, gaming wise, like I said earlier, Fortnite, got back into that. And that's, for the most part, that's really all we've been playing. Just Fortnite. I swear they must have done something weird where they like reel you in. They like give you some really easy competition for your first few games back.
It's just bots. Like, you don't even know it.
Yeah, exactly. We're like winning games left and right. And like, oh man, we should have never quit. And then, like this week, we're like, what the hell happened? Like, we can't buy a win. Like, bodied. You know, like the four of us playing one guy and he's just destroying us. And we're like, why did we come back to this game again?
He's a hacker. He had to be a hacker. It's the only way.
Yeah, exactly. That's our common excuse.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, like I said, most people know what I'm kind of playing. I'm just looking forward to Marvel's Avengers. I just want to jump into it and get into the full game. That's kind of what I'm excited about trying out here. So, also, I finished a book. I don't always read a bunch of books, but I've been reading books. The second book in this called the Reckoners series by Brandon Sanderson. It was called Firefight. It's about like what if one day something basically appears in the sky and gives a ton of people superpowers, but the people who get superpowers become evil, and the whole world gets overtaken by these individuals who are super strong. So it's kind of like a group trying to fight back and kill those people and figure out why this happened. So, really interesting. Like I said, not usually one for books, but just checking it out. I'm trying to broaden my horizons, you know? Always can broaden them. Well, now we get to move into my personal favorite segment of the show, last one, which is community feedback and questions. And this week, Jay, we got some questions. This one comes in, this one's just for you, which I love it when it's a specific question like this. This one comes in from Simon the Sharkman on our Discord. He says, question for the podcast, you, Jalen. What makes you lovely? What makes you just so lovely, Jalen?
Oh, Simon, what's your real question?
That's it.
I don't know. That is a very, very good question. That's news to me, Simon. I'm glad that you see it that way. Some would say otherwise, but Simon, God bless you. Thanks for Thanks for the kind words, my man.
Yeah, you're a sweet guy, Jay. I love it. You got a great disposition about you, my friend. One that I would like to have one day myself. But you're just easy guy to work with, easy guy to talk to, and we've actually talked a few times where it's just like nothing, like it's just like just buddies talking, like we didn't have like a purpose. We're just kind of like, hey, we just chatted for like 45 minutes, and like that's it, and I love it. I'm like, yeah, man, that's what I'm talking about. So yeah, we'll try to figure out what makes him lovely, Simon, one day. I don't know, maybe one day we'll get like a piece of him at a crime scene or something, and it'll be like, all right, he was saving a life or something, and it'll be like, all right, we can analyze the DNA, and it'll be like, oh, well, clearly these are the lovely genes. He's got them.
Right. If that is the case, please use those genes to reincarnate me, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, this will be you. You'll survive. It's like Batman. Batman at these scenes where he bleeds a little bit. No, we're not gonna. Yeah, we won't. This won't be your death. No, you'll be fine. You'll have saved the day, and like somebody, like a scientist, will pick it up and it'll be like, I can make another one of this guy. He's a nice dude. We need more of him in this world. Oh my goodness. This one comes in from Lodiaz, though. He says, thoughts and hopes on what we might see in The Mandalorian Season 2. Now, Jalen, I don't know, did you watch the first season of Mandalorian? Did we talk about this?
I did see it. I have not gone back and watched it a second time, but it's crazy that it's almost been a year since that came out, right?
Yeah, it's been a crazy year, right?
Yeah. It's crazy how 2020 will make you forget what you even did before 2020 came around.
Exactly. Who am I?
Right. But I'm trying to remember where it left off at. Are we giving spoilers on this?
Sure. I think anybody's okay. If you got to this point, I apologize, but Baby Yoda, they got Baby Yoda back, and then Esposito, the bad guy from Breaking Bad, he showed up with a black lightsaber, basically, dark saber.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I was talking about there. I'm assuming that we're going to learn a lot more about Baby Yoda as far as what exactly where he's from. I think we got a pretty good idea on the Mandalorian himself for the most part in season 1. But I think that we're going to get a lot into Baby Yoda and kind of the other side of what's it called? It's not considered. Is it considered the Sith at this point, or is it just the
kind of like the Empire, the remnants of the Empire, or whatever?
Yeah. Because I feel like we don't know quite enough about that yet, but I could see those being the two main.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I think there's going to be a lot heavier focus on the Empire stuff. I'm really hoping that they don't do the, like, there's an overarching story, but each episode is kind of like a different thing. I feel like we've kind of already gotten that in season 1. And I'm hoping that a lot of it's very plot heavy for the most part. But I think we'll see the return of his sidekicks, as it were, as well, which will be cool. Because I think they're all really great. And yeah, I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot more of like the child stuff. I really don't think they're going to name him at this point. I hope they don't, because I think marketing-wise for them, just calling it the child or Baby Yoda has worked out really well for them. So I think just keep it that way. I just say keep it that way. But I also think we're going to see some more other truly professional bounty hunters. I would not be surprised at this point for the Empire, the remnants of the Empire, to hire some other bounty hunters to track Mando down. Like, so it's like he has to be like, oh, I'm a bounty hunter, and he kind of like would look around at a scene before he walks into it and be like, we can't go that way. And they'll be like, why not? And they'll be like, if I was hunting me and I walked through here, this is how I would attack me. Like, I think they'll be more like kind of, it's almost like Witcher-esque. So yeah, that's what I'm hopeful for. I really think that'll be cool. And plus, we're gonna get more jetpack action because he finally got his jetpack. So I think that might
that's true.
They'll probably have to break it because like you can't like it's like. He's almost too powerful with it, right? Like you can't give it to him the whole time. Like, I'm flying away from this. Like he'd be like, whoa, kind of jump away. But yeah, I'm excited because I really liked that first season. I thought it was cool, and I went back to it and kind of like was watching it again. It wasn't as gripping, I don't think, the second time, but I said like it's just such a beautifully shot show. It's like a movie. Like it is like a movie TV show. You're like, yeah. Oh gosh. And as a filmmaker, as someone who's in film, you know, like for you, I bet there's stuff in there where you're like, how did they even do this? Like,
watching the behind the scenes portion of it afterwards, crazy.
Oh my
gosh. I didn't know that there was a new director every episode. Just like, I don't understand how you can make something so like strung together and so cohesive with like 8 different minds on it or whatever it was. It's crazy to me. And then like the lengths that they went to get some of the shots, and like you would imagine it's this massive landscape that they're in, and then they're just like on a tiny like soundstage with a big screen behind it. It's like, who would have ever thought to do that and use like game technology, like game engines to render this stuff? It's nuts.
I love that because it just like, as someone aspiring actor, I love that they're finally giving them more to work with, because sometimes it's just like, it's just green screens, and I get why like Ian McKellen had problems on The Hobbit when he was like, I'm acting, but there's no one else in the room with me. But like now it's like, all right, you want a desert? Boom. You want like an Arctic tundra? Boom. You want to be in the middle of space? Boom. Like you can just like hit a remote and it's there. I think it's so cool. Like, and it probably saves them so much money. They're like, all right, we built it once, and just like get the ground and a few props on there, and they're like, bah, look at there, bah, like that. Oh my gosh, yeah, not shooting on location in like you know, West Africa or whatever they did for like the original Star Wars, and you're like, you went into like the desert, like you really, oh, all right. I mean, great, it holds up, but like, yeah, man, yeah. So everybody, if you haven't checked out the Mandalorian season 1 or it's like the behind the scenes Mandalorian's. Star Wars Mandalorian thing. It's on Disney Plus. You should be able to find it. Really fascinating. But you're right. The whole director's thing. I'm sure they had mandates, but at the same time, they were probably like, "All right, this is how I shoot. This is my style." You know? Yeah, it's a cool show. It's a cool show. Well, cool. Sure. Well, Jalen, I appreciate you taking the time out to hang out with me here today, and I appreciate everybody else who listened in to us or watched us. If you ever have a topic, a question, or if you want to see Jalen back on the show, just tweet the hashtag Critical Podcast. Tweet at me. I'm at JimmyGood013, or you can tweet at GoCritical. However, if you want to find Jalen on Twitter and just tweet him about how lovely he is, which you should all do, Jalen, where can they find you?
So you can find me at youtube.com/Galactic Grizzly, just like outer space there. I make content based around entertainment. So I break down stuff from the past, stuff from the present, stuff from the future. Just not specific to just TV or games, just kind of all over the place. Whatever I just find to be fascinating at the time. That's where you can find my YouTube channel at. I post once a week. I'm actually pretty much done with social media.
Well, look at you. Congratulations.
Yeah. It's been a little while now. Like, I've slowly just been, like, kind of getting rid of everything one by one. So that's really one place you can kind of check me out at.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I do have, like, there are social media platforms with my name attached to it. You just won't find me using it.
Sure, fair enough. Well, if you're going to go check out his channel, everybody, obviously the easiest segue into it, if you like listening to my voice going on and on and on and on, you can go check out that video of what happened to EPCOT. But I also suggest checking out the episode he did about what happened to Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, because it was a show I used to really love, even in high school. But it was for like middle schoolers, kind of, and it was just fun to listen to how that all shifted and where those like main characters or those actors actually went onto later on. So you should check that out. There's a lot of good ones on there. So if you loved like especially childhood stars or musicians that you haven't heard from in a while, it's a good place. He's got some videos for you to get you all covered. So yeah. Jalen, do you have any favorite ones of those that you would recommend?
Like Nessie Classified was really fun. Kirko Banks was a lot of fun to do. Orlando Bloom was on there.
Dude, yeah.
They're all pretty interesting to do, but those are probably like my absolute favorite ones. Shia LaBeouf was in there too.
Yeah.
That was interesting to do my homework on him. Those are my favorites.
The Shia LaBeouf one too. Yeah, I gotta go back and watch Even Stevens. I've been meaning to do that. One of these days I'll do it. And there's a movie at the end, so there's a lot to watch. Anyway, thank you guys for checking us out today. I appreciate it. If you want to support us, we have a Twitch where I'm streaming weekly. You can find Jalen in there sometimes. He comes and hangs out in this chat, so you can like hang out with him. He's always great to have there. We have an Instagram, Amazon affiliate link, all that stuff, Facebook. We also have audio versions of this on Spotify and Google Play, if that's still a thing. So if you just want to listen to it, there's that option for you too. But thank you to everybody who's not only subscribing to us over on Twitch, but also donating on Patreon. We have another month in the books, thanks to you guys. Thank you so much. And if you donate at $5 and up, you not only get your name over here at the very end, but you also get this podcast like a day or two early. So there you go, incentives. But just sharing us around, that helps. If you can share us, I would appreciate that. Either way, thank you for being here, Jalen. Once again, thank you for being on the show. It was a pleasure to get to talk to you, as always.
Thanks for having me, man. It's an absolute honor to be on this show. I just want to say to you, God bless you, man. You're like a really good friend of mine. I love everything that you put out, man. It's a pleasure meeting you. However long it's been, like 6 months or so.
Yeah.
It's been awesome, man, and I hope we can continue our friendship for a long time.
Of course. Let's do it, man, because we're gonna hang out in real life one day when this whole pandemic thing is done. And it'll be great because we could be like, yeah, we met during the throes of this horrible pandemic, and we became great buddies, and we could like talk to like our grandchildren one day. I'll be like, well, I met Jalen back in the 2020s.
Right.
During
the plague.
Exactly.
The plague of 2020.
How did we survive? Nobody knows. But yes, of course, man. And dude, again, likewise, it's just like it's fun to talk to another content creator who loves what they do, and like you're doing it because you love it, not because it's like your full-time job or something. So I respect it because I am exactly the same way. You know, it's just like it's a hobby that's I love to share with people, and thankfully, people want to watch it, which is great. Otherwise, I'd be making this, and I'd be like, I'm not recording this. This is just for me, which I've done as a joke sometimes. So my friend Joe, I'm like, I don't put these up. I'm like, I just save them for myself, which would be very strange. Anyway, again, thank you for being on, and thank you for everyone who's listening. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and remember to adapt and overcome. There we go, we're out.
Cool, man.